In a recent video that I made, I was talking about getting over art block, and one of the things that I had brought up was this whole idea of not creating things because it is not deemed perfect or good enough. And so you're stuck in this cycle of not being able to create because it's not good enough, but then you can't improve because you're not drawing and you're not improving because of that, and it's just a constant thing forever and ever and ever. And it really got me thinking after making that video and editing it and just sitting down and thinking just a lot within my mind space, because it has been a problem that I've had for years of just not being able to create or finish things because of this idea that it's not good enough or perfect, or God forbid I haven't touched something in years, so therefore I am quote unquote not allowed to. I mean, heck, even coming back to YouTube, I kept being anxious about it because I thought, well, I haven't uploaded in this amount of time, so is anybody even gonna care? Why should I try? I haven't uploaded anything in so long, maybe I should just cut my losses. And even some of the same mentality for a story I've been working on, where I still am working on it and I'm still trying to make more stuff on it, but I haven't touched it in a while, and so people will just assume that I gave up on it if I'm not making anything about it because I haven't touched it in years. At least they don't think so. And that discourages me a lot more because I end up thinking, well, if they think that, then clearly I have given up, which is not true. And it just kind of gets me stuck in this endless cycle where I think I cannot create because of all of these other barriers in the way that I have created upon myself. These are self-inflicted barriers that I have made, I have created, and for what? Even more so, trying to create stuff, I'll think, who cares? I mean, who's gonna watch it? Who's gonna look at it? Who's gonna read it? And the reality is, if you don't make it, then yeah, nobody will see it. You have to make it in order for somebody to see it. But I get really in my head about these things. It's so easy to get stuck in your own head. But I got a comment the other day that really made me happy. It was this really long comment. I do read all your guys' comments, by the way, if this is evident enough. And they compared me to Bob Ross in the sense of there are no mistakes, there are only happy accidents. And that comment just, oh my god, it really hit me in the best kind of way. It made me so happy because, I mean, one, he's such an idol, but two, that's always what I've wanted to do, is give this warm, welcoming community for all of us that struggle with mental health, chronic illness, whatever it may be that you're fighting with. I want people to know that they're not alone, and I think that's kind of what inspired me to try and make this video. For a while, I've tried making stuff thinking, well, what's gonna get views, what's gonna hopefully be a good tagline or catchy or whatever, and I spend so long on these videos and this other stuff thinking, oh, people eventually will like this one, and then I'm just left kind of meh about what I made versus focusing on stuff I actually like and what gives me a lot more happiness. And so here we are getting into the actual meat of the video instead of me just rambling along and you probably sitting there going, what are you even talking about? So often I talk to people and they will look down on themselves for what they create and say it's not good enough. I am not good at art. I'm not good at this thing. I'm not good at whatever. And then they don't keep trying. And I remember this video years ago that really helped me. It's called Finished Not Perfect. And I always have to chant that to me in a weird way. It's kind of become my motto of finished not perfect. And I have to continuously all the time remind myself of that, because I will get so stuck on these projects that I make and I'm so hung up on the idea that it's not good enough that I get too nervous to continue making it. And I don't think it helps much that sometimes I'll show people what I'm working on and they'll point out little things that are quote unquote wrong with it, especially things I haven't quite gotten to yet on the artwork that I'm actively working on, and I just get so disheartened, which is ridiculous. I mean, people are allowed to make criticisms and point out things. That's a me issue, but I think it's extra a me issue to get so disheartened by the idea of something I am creating having the literal human flaw in it, when I think that is one of the most beautiful things. Now, I know right now with the rampantness of AI art, it gets a little scary to post artwork where there are flaws because people will circle it and say, hey, what's wrong with this? Why does this look this way? And again, that will just come down to the human error. Humans are incapable of creating something 100% perfect to a T. We are going to mess up no matter what. Even some of the biggest studios and some of the best artists you can think of are bound to have imperfections and mess up on something in their artwork. And at the end of the day, I mean, who really cares? Yeah, you can take a screenshot or clip it and say like, oh, look at that, that looks bad. And yeah, it is a bit worse when it comes from like a multi-billion-dollar company. But then you gotta think, if a multi-million-dollar or billion-dollar company is making these minor mistakes in their movies and their cartoons or whatever, what's wrong with you as one person making these errors? You're just one person. One person is always bound to have mistakes in their creations. And not only that, but you as a person will not improve on literally anything if you don't put in the effort and try. The only way to get better at something is to fail. And failure is not a bad thing. Failure is the chance to learn and improve and get better at something. You're not going to look at a toddler when they're taking their first steps and stumble and then point and laugh and say, wow, you suck at this. You're so bad at walking. You should never walk again, ever. That's just unrealistic and mean. So why are we not only treating other artists like this, but ourselves? Why are we being so unkind to ourselves? There's this therapy technique that I still really, really like to this day. And it's this idea that you treat yourself like you are your own best friend, which I think everybody should do. It's a really good way to be kinder to yourself. And in doing so, you have to say something like, well, would you ever say that to your best friend? Or why would you say that about your best friend? Because the reality is you would never, or at least you should never, say those things about your best friend. Never once would I ever go to a friend of mine who is creating artwork and pinpoint anything that was bad about it, even regardless if there are parts of it that I don't like. If they're not asking for that criticism, I'm just not going to say anything because it's just not my space to say. And I would also never judge a friend for making a piece of artwork that is not perfectly finalized and amazing, quote unquote, and perfect. I would never judge a friend on starting something new like baking, cooking, crocheting, whatever it may be, and it not being perfect and amazing on the first try. Because they're learning, and it's needlessly cruel to try and say those things to somebody who is trying something new and trying to improve themselves and just try. Even with a lot of YouTube videos, I end up getting so in my head about creating content that will not be amazing, quote unquote amazing, and that won't get millions of views or whatever, because I just think, well, why even try? And the answer is, if you don't try, then nobody's gonna watch it. And not only that, I'm putting way too high of standards on myself for somebody who is bedbound 90% of the time and very sick and uses a wheelchair and can't even draw at a desk most of the time. I'm just trapped in bed constantly. So why am I going to put unrealistic expectations on myself when if any of my friends had gotten into the same kind of stuff and they were doing the bare minimum of editing, I would just praise them for even getting something done. Starting is the hard part, and the next step is trying to finish something. Trying to just sit down and finish a project that you started is unbelievably hard. It's one of the hardest things I think anybody can do, is being able to finally finish just one thing, and getting so caught up on the details of it not being quote unquote good enough and that you need to try harder and whatever. And I've really harmed myself in that process because I'm so anxious of what I create and what I make, whether that be artwork, my comics, my YouTube videos, of it somehow falling flat and it just not being the level that I think it should be, when the reality is the level that I want it to be, I'm going to have to practice a lot more. And not only that, I can come back and retry and do this all over again. I mean, there's videos in the past that I've wanted to remake and just do again, but with a newer perspective. And there's nothing wrong with that. Just because I made it once doesn't mean I can never tackle that topic ever again. It's not now banished to the shadow realm. And it's the same thing for literally anything you make. We don't start out amazing and perfect and fantastic in the Mozart or whatever of whatever we're starting. It's baby steps. There's nothing wrong with baby steps. You don't start at the finish line. You have to start right at the very beginning. And there's always room for improvement and error and learning. Because, yeah, like Bob Ross said, there is no such thing as mistakes. There's just happy accidents. We all learn at our own pace. And it's, again, the same thing with so much art where I've heard people say, I'm too old to learn how to draw or bake or whatever. It usually comes down to art is the big thing. They're just, oh, I'm too old to do that. Says who? Says who? There's no wrong time to start something. There's no wrong time to learn something. We are an ever-expanding species with massive brains that yearn and crave knowledge, and there is nothing wrong with wanting to learn something new. And keeping yourself to these unrealistic standards is only going to halt any progress. I think it's a huge reason, even just drawing backgrounds, I've really struggled with. I'm not very good at perspective. Even in real life, I really struggle to see perspective. It's just an eyeball problem for me. Like, quite literally, I don't know what the whole issue is. I don't care. But perspective's always been something I really struggle with, and I think that's a lot of artists in general is trying to understand perspective. And so backgrounds get really scary. I'm also not the best at inanimate objects, and then I just don't practice more with inanimate objects, and then I wonder why they don't look as good. And they're always going to look worse compared to the humans/people that I draw, because yeah, I've been drawing people for years. That's the big thing I like to draw. Even when I was doing a lot of more semi-realism/realism paintings, I would start trying to paint the hands or the clothes, and I would just stop because trying to paint semi-realistic hands is very hard. It's extremely hard, but it looks very off. It looks very off in comparison to the very well-rendered face, and so I would just draw the face and nothing else, and I'm like, yep, that's it, versus trying to just practice the hands and the shading. And I see that a lot with so many artists, where they do a lot of really good paintings and the faces look amazing, and then the anatomy and the hands especially fall flat, and it just comes down to them not having any confidence to keep practicing and trying to learn how to get better at those things. And I'm not even saying they have to be even good if they don't want to, but not allowing yourself to take that step to be bad at something is ultimately even worse. Because when you don't even try, you're not even going to learn if you enjoy that thing. I used to really hate drawing hands. Speaking of hands, to stay on topic, I feel like that's 90% of artists' just biggest enemy is hands, that and feet. And so I wouldn't do a lot of complex hand shapes because I hated it. I always thought they looked weird and bad. And then I started practicing it a lot more. I got really into My Hero Academia, as I'm sure a lot of you know, and Horikoshi is fantastic at drawing hands. I really, really love the details that he puts into the hands that he draws, and I wanted to get better. And so that's what I did. I started practicing. I started just sketching hands and breaking them down. I would trace over my own hands to understand the shape of it, and I got way better at it because I started getting a lot more confident in my ability to draw something that originally I was really, really bad at. And I just know the same is going to happen for anything else. Even armor, I wasn't very good at drawing, and I just had to keep practicing it. When I first started drawing, I was way more into anime, significantly. I think that's where a lot of artists start, is being really into anime. And so I didn't really take the time to practice realism because I thought it was boring and just way too overwhelming. And then I started practicing it more and getting better at it and studying and learning. And I found out that I really liked that. I actually really enjoyed doing more realistic shading and the noses and the eyes. And I started, again, finding out I really like drawing hands. I really started drawing teeth. There's a lot of interesting things. I just found out I really enjoyed creating and focusing on in art, and I would have never known that if I didn't try. And I think that's where I'm at now with some other stuff I'm trying to practice. Even other things, I keep seeing trends on TikTok to use a song and then edit something from an anime or game, And I really want to do that just for fun. Same for making animatics, because I've never really done that before. And I'll sit back and say, oh, it might not be very good. Who cares? Who cares? It's just a fun opportunity to try something new and practice it. And if I don't like it, I don't like it. I don't have to keep doing that. Who's gonna stop me? Who's gonna hold me down? Nobody. Embrace being bad at things. Embrace the struggle of just not being good at something. Because at the end of the day, you don't know if you're going to find something that you truly enjoy unless you are okay with being bad at something. And at the end of the day, it doesn't need to be perfect. Finished, not perfect. And always think about that. Just because it's not amazing the first try doesn't mean you can't try it again. Doesn't mean you're not going to learn something better. Hello, hello, hello. I would love to give a big and warm shout out to all of my Patreons, starting with my $5 Patreons. Thank you so much to Seraphi, Tawny, Deshi Quiche, and Izzy. To my $10 Patrons, I would love to give a big, warm, wonderful shout out to Nightmares. Thank you so much. And of course, how can we forget? Thank you so much to the $100 Patreon of Noah. Thank you so much. I don't even know what I would do without you guys, especially in these crazy times that keep getting even crazier. If you want to join my Patreon and give a shout out as well as early access to videos, art, and other things, the link is below. But of course, you do not have to, do not feel forced to or obligated. I hope you have an amazing morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are around the world. And hey, drink some water. I'll see you next time, alright? Bye!